stories of HR.
The stories HR tells itself.
So imagine for a second that you're flipping through this glossy brochure for a top-tier business school.
Oh, yeah. The usual MBA marketing stuff.
Right, exactly. You see the usual things, Master of Business Administration or Executive Certificate in Global Leadership.
All right.
But then imagine you turn the page and you see this bold headline that just says, "Come learn world-class followership. Become the best sheep in your flock."
I mean, I feel like you'd immediately check your calendar to see if it was April Fool's Day.
You would, because it sounds like a prank. But honestly, it just exposes this massive blind spot in corporate culture. Today, we are tearing down lie number 7 from the Lies of HR series.
And this is a big one.
It really is. It's this deeply ingrained myth that leadership is what matters most, like exclusively.
Yeah. And I think we should establish our baseline right out of the gate here. This isn't about bashing good leaders.
No, not at all.
Like in our 6th episode, we talked a lot about the mechanics of effective leadership. And, admiring someone who genuinely leads a team well is perfectly fine.
Absolutely.
But the target today is the obsessive, unquestioning focus on leadership only, and frankly, the unfair stigma that surrounds the word follower.
It really is an obsession, isn't it? I mean, MBA programs are constantly scanning applicants for leadership potential like it's some sort of rare genetic marker.
No, they hunt for it.
Right? Or when a company's performance takes a dip, everyone will blame the leadership.
Without hesitation.
Yeah. We act with complete certainty that changing the person at the top is the absolute lever we have to fix this complex, hundreds or thousands of people machine.
Which is, it's mathematically and practically absurd. The cold, hard truth here is that leadership is literally impossible without followers.
Right. You can't lead an empty room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we've somehow created this culture that just worships the leader, while simultaneously completely stigmatizing the very people who make the active leadership function.
That's so weird.
So our goal today is to kind of redefine followership. We're going to look at why it's not about blind obedience or submission, but is actually the hidden, critical engine of success in literally any organization.
I love that. Treating leadership as the only driver of success is, it's like praising a car's steering wheel while completely ignoring the engine and the tires.
That's a great way to look at it.
Like the steering wheel gives direction, sure, but the tires are what actually grip the road. If the tires decide not to turn or, if the engine stalls, the car's going to crash, no matter how hard or how visionarily you steer.
That is the perfect mechanism to explain it. You just can't separate the two. And I think the core problem with the corporate obsession with leadership is that they categorize it completely wrong. Well, corporate culture treats leadership like it's a title. You get the corner office, you get the promotion, and suddenly, poof, you possess leadership.
It's printed on your business card.
Exactly. But leadership isn't a title you hold. It's a dynamic relationship. You are only a leader if people actively choose to follow you.
That reframing, just that one shift, changes the entire dynamic of a workplace. Because if it's a relationship, then the followers are exactly half of the equation.
Precisely. They aren't just like the supporting cast standing quietly in the background while the leader delivers this brilliant monologue.
Right.
They are active participants in a system. Without their buy-in, their energy, their execution, the leader is just a person talking to themselves.
But let me play devil's advocate here for a second, because I know the counter argument that people are screaming at their phones right now. Doesn't someone eventually just have to be in charge?
Well,
doesn't someone have to sit at the head of the table, synthesize all the info, and make the final call to keep things moving?
Sure, but that assumes there's this strict, permanent binary. Like, that you are either the one giving orders or the one taking them.
It's not like that.
Not at all.
Sure.
Organizational reality is so much more fluid. Everyone leads and everyone follows. Even the CEO, the person supposedly at the very top of the food chain, is a follower in a dozen different ways.
Oh, right, because the CEO doesn't operate in a vacuum. They answer to the board of directors.
They follow the board's mandates. They follow the shifting macroeconomic trends. They follow the changing behaviors of their customers.
That makes a lot of sense.
There's this pervasive, damaging myth that you start your career as this lowly follower, and then one day you graduate to being a leader, and you just leave followership behind forever.
Like it's a stepping stone.
Yeah. And it's entirely false. We all do both, constantly, depending on which room we happen to be standing in.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because it's easy to say, hey, don't be a yes person. But human psychology is incredibly messy.
Very messy.
If everyone is a follower in some capacity, how did researchers even begin to measure or categorize who is a good follower versus a bad one?
Well, it goes back to this foundational research by Robert Kelly in the late 80s and early 90s. Kelly didn't just, list out types of employees. He built a matrix based on two distinct behaviors.
Okay, I'm picturing a grid.
Yeah, picture a grid. The vertical axis represents active versus passive engagement.
So how much energy you're putting in.
Exactly. Do you take initiative or do you wait to be told what to do?
Okay, got it.
Then the horizontal axis represents independent, critical thinking. Are you analyzing the situation for yourself or are you just blindly accepting what you're told?
Right, so where you fall in that grid determines your type.
Yeah, and if you are high on active engagement, like you do all your tasks, you show up early, but you are low on independent thought, you fall into the category of the conformist follower.
Also known as?
Or as Kelly more bluntly called it, the sheep.
The sheep. And managers often secretly love the sheep.
Oh, they do?
Because in the short term, the sheep doesn't cause friction. They execute the immediate instruction, they don't push back on bad ideas, and they make the manager's Tuesday very, very easy.
They make it effortless. Right up until the manager makes a strategic mistake, and the sheep executes that mistake flawlessly, walking the entire department right off a cliff.
Oof, yeah.
But Kelly also identified another dangerous type on this grid, the alienated follower. This person sits high on independent critical thinking, but really low on active engagement.
So they have the intellect, but they completely lack the energy or the buy-in.
Exactly. This is the cynic.
Yeah.
The checked-out veteran employee. They absolutely see the flaws in the leader's plan. They see the iceberg approaching.
But they don't say anything.
Nope. Because they're alienated, they just cross their arms, lean back, and say, well, it's not my company. Let the ship sink.
Wow. So the passive follower doesn't see the iceberg at all, and the alienated follower sees the iceberg, but just refuses to warn the captain.
Which brings us to the upper right quadrant of Kelly's matrix, which is the ideal, the exemplary follower.
Okay, who is that?
This person is highly proactive, and they think independently. But the defining characteristic here is that they are committed to the mission of the organization, not to the ego of the person currently in charge.
Oh, that distinction is the crux of it. Loyalty to the mission versus loyalty to the person.
It changes the entire operational calculus. Because if you're loyal to the shared goal, you will naturally, inevitably challenge a leader who is heading in the wrong direction.
Because you have to.
Right. And a few years after Kelly's work, a researcher named Ira Chalaf built on this and actually coined the term the courageous follower.
Courageous follower. I really appreciate that phrasing because it inherently acknowledges the mechanism of power. Like pushback carries real professional risk.
Huge risk. Chalaf defined the courageous follower as someone who possesses the capacity to do two things simultaneously: to strongly support a leader and to firmly challenge them when their actions threaten the organization's purpose.
Right.
It's not about being a contrarian just to show off how smart you are. Right. It's about protecting the leader and the organization from their own blind spots.
So if you're listening to this right now and you manage a team, here's the hard truth you really need to internalize. The best employee you have ever had was not your most obedient one.
No.
It wasn't the one who smiled and nodded at every single one of your brilliant ideas. It was the one who walked into your office, closed the door, and told you, respectfully and with evidence, that you were about to make a huge mistake.
Yep.
And they were right.
And if you punish that person for speaking up, if you made them feel like they were overstepping, you were actively destroying the most valuable asset your company had.
That shifts the entire context for me because everything we've talked about so far is based on this century-old dynamic, the fear of employees blindly following flawed human bosses.
Right.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Today, the identity of the boss has completely changed. We aren't just talking about human leaders anymore.
No, we are not.
We're talking about software.
We are looking at a landscape where courageous followership isn't just like a nice-to-have HR concept anymore. It is a matter of existential survival.
What's fascinating here is that we are now dealing with automation bias.
Yes. This is heavily cited in the International AI Safety Report from 2026. Automation bias is basically the psychological tendency for humans to overtrust and blindly follow the output of an automated system, specifically generative AI.
Exactly.
And we do it without critically scrutinizing it at all.
Because generative AI completely strips away all the human tells of uncertainty. Think about it, when a human boss isn't sure about something, they stutter, they hesitate, they might say, I think, or their body language shifts.
You fidget.
Right. The AI does none of that. It produces perfectly structured, highly fluent paragraphs, and it delivers its answers with absolute, unwavering certainty.
It hijacks our brain's authority bias perfectly.
It really does. It is incredibly charismatic. And what we are seeing is that the sheep in an organization used to nod along to a charismatic, booming human leader. Today, the sheep nods along to a charismatic algorithm. And there's hard data showing exactly how this psychological trap degrades our critical thinking, right?
Yeah, there was a landmark study in 2025 by Microsoft and Carnegie Mellon focusing on knowledge workers using GenAI tools.
What did they find?
The researchers tracked how these workers interacted with the outputs, and the finding was frankly terrifying in its simplicity. The more that people trust a generative AI tool, the less cognitive effort they apply to their work.
Wow. So the tool gets better and the human brain just gets lazier.
They completely offloaded their judgment. They would get the confident, well-formatted answer from the prompt, copy it, paste it, and just stop checking the underlying data.
They reverted to sheep.
They reverted to the ultimate passive follower. But this time, the leader they were blindly obeying was a machine.
So in a world that is just flooded with confident AI, the exemplary follower, that person who looks at a pristine, beautifully formatted AI report and says, wait, the logic here doesn't track, I really need to audit this. That person isn't a nuisance slowing down productivity.
Not at all.
They are the final safeguard.
They are the only thing standing between the organization and a massive, scalable failure. The courage to question authority has always been valuable. But when that authority is a black box algorithm that can generate mistakes at the speed of light, that courage is the only thing keeping you safe.
So what does this all mean? If a culture of yes people and yes bots is a slow motion disaster, how do you actually engineer the opposite?
Well, you need a playbook.
Exactly. What does an organization look like that actively cultivates this kind of courage? Martin's notes lays out 5 specific moves to rewire how a company operates.
And it has to start with the foundational language we use. The first move is to kill the stigma.
Kill the stigma around being a follower.
Yeah, you have to stop treating the phrase good follower as a backhanded compliment or a synonym for a lackey. Name great followership out loud and reward it publicly. Acknowledge that everyone in your company leads sometimes and follows sometimes.
Which naturally leads into move number 2. How you build the team. You can't just hope for independent thinkers. You have to explicitly cultivate exemplary followers.
You have to hire and promote for it. During interviews and performance reviews, you should actually be assessing for loyalty to the mission, not personal loyalty to a manager.
Like asking them for examples of when they pushed back.
Exactly. You have to actively develop initiative in your team, asking them how they would challenge a flawed directive before they even get the job.
Now, rewarding dissent is great in theory, but it requires a fundamental shift in how a leader views their own authority. Move number 3 is you have to make it genuinely safe to challenge upward.
This is crucial.
And I think this is where most leaders fail, because every manager on earth claims they have an open door policy, but we all know that's often just corporate lip service. What does safe really look like in practice?
Safe doesn't just mean you won't fire them for speaking up. Courageous followership dies instantly in a culture of passive fear. Making it safe means you actively reward the person who says this is wrong, especially when it is highly inconvenient for you in the moment.
Like, say you're hours away from launching a major product. You're behind schedule, the pressure is just immense, and a mid-level engineer raises a red flag that forces you to halt production.
Yes. If challenging you in that high-stress moment turns out to be career-limiting for that engineer, you have just trained your entire staff to watch you fail in silence.
Because they see what happened to the engineer.
Exactly. The next time they see a critical error, they'll just keep their mouths shut. You have to celebrate the pushback publicly and financially when it hurts the most.
And to do that, the leader really has to transition from a know-it-all to a learn-it-all. Which brings us to the 4th move. Lead specifically to be questioned, not just obeyed.
You have to build a culture where you explicitly explain the why behind your directives. And critically, you must invite dissent before the decision is finalized.
Not after.
Right. If you present a fully baked plan and just ask, does anyone disagree? No one will. You have to present the problem and say, here's what I am thinking. Please tell me why this won't work. A leader who only wants compliance is manufacturing sheep.
And sheep cannot catch your blind spots.
They literally can't.
And finally, move 5. We have to apply this exact same framework to the software we use. We have to follow the algorithm critically.
You have to treat AI exactly like a powerful, highly confident leader that you must follow courageously. You need to explicitly teach your people and, frankly, continuously remind yourself that an AI's confident answer is merely a proposal to be checked.
It's not an order to be executed.
Exactly. It's a draft.
You just cannot outsource your judgment to the machine. The skill of respectful, evidence-based pushback is now the core competency of the future workplace. It's the exact same intellectual muscle you use to protect against bad human bosses and bad bots alike.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we're entering an era where the premium on independent human thought has never been higher. As machines become infinitely more capable of doing the execution, the coding, the writing, the data, sorting the actual human value lies entirely in the questioning, the auditing, and the course correcting.
It's really amazing how this all ties together. Leadership really is a dance, and you simply cannot dance alone. Winning organizations are not the ones built on the backs of a few dazzling, charismatic leaders at the very top.
No, they're not.
They are built on a deep foundation of people who are brave enough to follow well, and braver still to say no when it counts.
The organizations that survive the next decade will be the ones that realize followership is not a weakness, it is the ultimate safeguard.
I couldn't agree more. Which leaves me with a final, slightly provocative thought for you to mull over as you go about your day. We know that AI models are going to become undeniably smarter, faster, and more frequently correct over the next 5 years.
Undoubtedly.
As that happens, the psychological pull to just become a sheep to the algorithm is only going to get stronger. It's going to feel so easy and so efficient to just trust it completely. So in the future, will organizations actually have to deliberately engineer flaws or inject artificial mistakes into their AI systems just to force employees to practice their courageous followership?
Oh, wow. That's a scary thought.
Right. Will we have to occasionally fake errors just to keep our critical thinking muscles from completely atrophying? Think about that the next time you blindly click accept on an AI-generated proposal. Maybe a seminar in world-class followership is exactly what we all need next.
That's another comfortable lie, told straight. Follow the show wherever you're listening so the next one finds you. And if you want it in your inbox, sign up at liesofhr.com. Sit with this one, argue with it, and come back for more.
Lies of HR.
The stories HR tells itself.